YouTube and welcome to another TV anime review. I know that I have been quiet for the past 2 weeks, but that was because I was taking a trip up to North Sweden. But now I am back and it is time for another review for fall 2018. And the anime that I'm reviewing this week is Tsurune, Kazemai Koukou Kyuudoubu or Kazemai High School Archery Club. Now this anime was a genuine surprise to me when I saw the announcement for it, because it was made by Kyoto Animation. First of all, Kyoto Animation had never done a sports anime before, and usually Kyoto Animation only brings out one high-level anime per year. And in 2018, in the winter season, they gave us Violet Evergarden, one of their best productions ever. So I was very surprised to see that Kyoto Animation was bringing out a second anime in 2018. So I was very curious to see how they were going to do the sports genre. Tsurune's main character is called Narumiya Minato, who in middle school was pretty good at Kyōdo or Japanese archery. But at the finale of a big tournament, Minato developed target panic and ran away from the sport. Now entering high school, Minato is reunited with one of his old friends Takehaya Seiya, who still performs Kyōdo and convinces Minato to rejoin the club. So Minato now is on a journey to overcome his target panic, and the entire team also has to overcome some major struggles in the up-run to a major tournament. To start off with, there were multiple elements where you could see that Tsurune was a clear side project of Kyoto Animation for 2018. And the first of those elements was the main storyline. I have been saying this quite a lot over the past few months in my sport animes reviews, but 9 out of 10 modern day sport animes use one of two main storylines. You have either the Fallen Prodigy story, which is also what is used here in Tsurune, or you have the, let's say, nerd with a hidden talent story. Read the story of, for instance, Yowamushi Pedal. And unfortunately, like the vast majority of sports animes today, use one of these two storylines, also Tsurune. And it becomes quite boring and predictable to always see the same storyline being used over and over again. There are other animes that use one of these storylines, but then actually make it better by implementing several other elements into their story. For me, one of the best examples of that was Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso or Your Lie in April. It uses a very standard Fallen Prodigy storyline, but the anime was extremely well written by all of the extra elements that were implemented in it. So, as I said, you can definitely see by the main story that Tsurune was a side project of Kyoto Animation and that they poured almost all of their effort and production capacity in Violet Evergarden. Second element where you could see that Tsurune was a side project were the side and the backstories in this anime, because none of them were really fully exploited, which is also not common for Kyoto Animation. Tsurune touched upon some backstories for our characters and side stories about the relationships between our characters, but for none of them we really go in depth in the anime. We have Seiya's backstory, or the story about Minato's target panic, or the relationship between Minato and Shu. For all of this, the anime stays very superficial and never goes into depth to really exploit the story behind it. Element number 3 was how the sport Kyōdo was used. Now, first of all, I will give credit where credit is due, because Tsurune used a sport that, by my knowledge, was never used before in an anime, so I will give credit to the anime for using something new. But also here, just like with the backstories and the side stories, it was all very superficial. The anime didn't go into detail about how Kyōdo works. It showed us the basics of how this sort of archery works, but we never get to see the details behind it. There are other sport animes that really show all the details about how the sport works. Like, for instance, Hanebado about badminton, Ballroom Yokoso about ballroom dancing, and Yowamushi Pedal about road cycling racing. In all of this anime, all of those animes, really go in depth about the sport, and I enjoy that very much, and it makes that I can enjoy the anime a lot more because I know how the sport behind it works. But Tsurune, as I said, stayed very superficial about Kyoto, so I didn't feel really invested into the sport and in the story for that matter. And the fourth and final element was the animation of Tsurune itself. Now, the animation in this anime was not bad by any means, but it also wasn't the super high level quality that we are used to get from Kyoto Animation. Kyoto Animation is one of the best, if not the best animation studio out there in my opinion, because their animes are always super beautiful when it comes to the animation. But as I said before, Tsurune was a side project. Almost all of probably the money, the budget and the production capacity of Kyoto Animation went to Violet Evergarden, which you clearly saw in the anime because the animation was really next level. So there was probably not a lot of budget and production capacity or staff left to work on Tsurune, and you could really see that in the animation. The animation was of a very average level, let's say. It's the kind of level that I see from a lot of, let's say, not lower end, but more not super high level animation studios. They all make this kind of quality. So all of these elements together show that Tsurune wasn't really that important for Kyoto Animation because their big shot for 2018 was Violet Evergarden. So as a conclusion, Tsurune wasn't what we're used to get from Kyoto Animation. The story was predictable and superficial, the backstories were not exploited, and the animation itself was very average for Kyoto Animation. And all of this, of course, points in the direction that Kyoto Animation did Tsurune only on the side. So overall, I'm going to rate Tsurune at a rather disappointing 3 out of 5 stars. I kind of expected more of this anime at first sight, but when I watched the trailer and saw like the average animation quality, I already had kind of a feeling that this wouldn't be a big shot anime coming from Kyoto Animation. It was their first try at the sports genre, but I hope that in the future they will make another sports anime with then the full production capacity, the full staff and the full budget thrown at it, because I am convinced that Kyoto Animation can make one hell of a sports anime. As I said in numerous of my other sport anime reviews, there is basically an anime for every sport you can think of, so just search it and you will find one for the sport that you want to watch. Some of my favorite sport animes out there are last year's Hanebado, Ballroom Eyokoso and Yowamushi Battle. Now, if you want to watch something that goes a little bit broader than just the sports genre, or let's say the sport/art genre, then watch Shikatsu wa Kimi no Uso, or Your Lie in April. This is one of the best animes I ever had the pleasure of following seasonally. Yes, it has the standard Fallen Prodigy story, but the story was written so well and it evolved in such a way towards the end of the anime that it literally is one of the best animes I have ever watched. If you're a fan of, let's say, the art/romance drama genre, or if you're really into classical music, then definitely go watch Shikatsu wa Kimi no Uso. And with that, I conclude my review of Tsurune. As usual, you can find the full list of all my animes and reviews over at Anime Planet. As usual, I will put a link in the description box down below. Now, if you want me to review particular anime from this list, please put it in the comments. Also, if you have a recommendation for me, put it in the comments as well. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, visit me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to this channel for more reviews in the future. Then I will say arigatou gozaimasu, and I will see you all in the next video.